Hi guys, welcome back, and today I'll be covering the next part for What If Raditz raised Kakarot. Last time we saw the Saiyans finally break free from their heritage's long enemy, to now all leading free lives and doing what they wish. While Vegeta runs the universe with his brother and Nappa by his side, Kakarot now searches for a way to bring his brother back to the world. And let's head into this story. We join Kakarot waking up in a room unfamiliar to him. He looks around through foggy vision, scanning the room. He doesn't see a lot before coming across an old man stood in front of him. Kakarot tries to pull himself up, causing the old man to take a fighting stance, while Kakarot feels a sharp pain echo throughout his entire body. However, he just laughs when the old man takes this fighting stance. He can sense this man's energy, and he knows this guy is not a threat, even in his heavily injured state. Kakarot tells him not to waste time. It would only take a small ki blast from him to level the entire city. The old man doesn't flinch, however, and Kakarot can't help but be impressed somewhat. Kakarot, feeling his body is beyond its breaking point, decides to rest a little bit, laying much more into the bed than he was before, causing the old man to lower his guard, which is when a blue-haired woman walks in with a small, bold fighter, who Kakarot recognises from the tower in the sky. But this man has no injuries, which is confusing to Kakarot. But before he can ask too many questions, the bold fighter gives Kakarot a smile, asking how his alien friend is doing. Kakarot snarls at this, but responds saying how he has been worse, before asking where he is once again, and who they are. This gets the woman to tut before she explains that he is in her medical centre, and then introduces herself as Bulma, leading the other two to give their names. The old man is called Gohan, and the other man is called Krillin. Kakarot finds all their names weird, but now having somewhat of a capable fighter in front of him in Krillin, he realises he's going to have to play ball a bit more with them. So he introduces himself, and when hearing his name, Gohan can't help but respond saying how he thought Goku would have been a perfect fit for the man, with the tail and all. This causes Kakarot to give Gohan a very weird look, as the room falls silent for a few minutes, with Krillin being the one to break it, asking what he wants the Dragon Balls for. Kakarot remembers that he had actually asked the fighter about this, and now he has to think of something to pretend his wish was for. After all, he has changed a lot in this timeline, but admitting to strangers who he doesn't know that he's soft and wants to revive his brother isn't in his Saiyan nature, and his pride won't allow him to do it. And if Nappa was to catch wind of this, he would slaughter him. He understands Vegeta and Taba would support him, and maybe pick on him a little, but right now he can't deal with this. Not only is his ego bruised from getting defeated by Slug, he can't let his pride be hurt like this, so he lies. He spends a second thinking before explaining how he was looking for the orbs to wish for the perfect mate. This causes his face to go red a little bit, however it was the best lie he could come up with on the spot. Bulma finds this a little cute, thinking back to her days of searching for the Dragon Balls, wondering why she never made that wish. But Old Man Gohan doesn't believe a word that just came out of Kakarot's mouth. Sure, he can sense that Kakarot's heart has good in it somewhat. It's not pure at all, but the evil that's inside his heart is much less than the good, and he can tell that maybe this guy might be an ally they can trust. For some reason, his face just seems trustworthy. As for Krillin, much like Gohan, he doesn't believe it. However, the man did save his life, and he wants to give him the benefit of the doubt. So, Krillin explains how the planet used to have Dragon Balls until a couple of days ago. The Dragon Balls were connected to a being known as Kami, the ruler of this earth and defender of it, someone he had trained under personally, and actually considered quite a close ally. But when that other demon came from space, he killed all of his friends and allies, even his former mentor, and then he collected the Dragon Balls and restored his own youth. And once he had got his youth back, no one stood a chance. He easily defeated whatever was left of Earth's defenders, leaving Krillin the only one alive. He then absorbed Kami and took a capsule containing a very dangerous creature inside of it, causing Gohan to mutter under his breath, Demon King Piccolo. And now he's heading to space to God knows where. But Kakarot speaks up, saying that he wasn't a demon, that was a Namekian. Krillin and the other Earthlings' ears perk up. Kakarot speaks up kind of annoyingly, explaining how Lord Slug wasn't any demon, so stop referring to him as that. And he's actually a Namekian, the race which makes Dragon Balls. So, after hearing this Kami guy was connected to the Dragon Balls, he can only assume he was also Namekian. Kakarot kind of realises now that the myth is true and he can head to Namek and get his brother back. However, he doesn't share this aloud, just thinking it to himself. Everyone can't believe this, as Bulma asks how Kakarot knows all of this. The man sighs, explaining, realising that he can't just say he's an alien who knows things. So he goes on to explain how he was originally planning to head to Namek to see if the myth of the Dragon Balls was real. However, along the way he passed by this planet in his ship. He sensed a strong fighter appear on the planet, got his Saiyan blood pumping. Explaining how Saiyans are a warrior race and they live for combat, he had to stop by to see what was happening. After all, he hadn't fought anyone in months. But with Slug now gone, he knows where he's heading. He's heading to Namek. He wants more Namekians. It seems that Namekians have a weird trait where they can assimilate with other Namekians. He doesn't really understand how it works, but now he knows of it. He knows of a way to defeat it, and should make Slug very easy to beat. But he needs to get to Namek first. So, he thanks them for their hospitality, but explains how he'll be taking his ship now. Which is when Krillin awkwardly chuckles, explaining that his ship was actually destroyed in Slug's final attack. Making a vein pop in Kakarot's head, but he collects himself. He says it's okay, putting his fingers to his head and sensing the universe. He's searching for Slug, or even the other Saiyans. They would have a ship he could borrow, but he can't find Slug anywhere. The man must be hiding his power. As for Vegeta, he's further away than he is. This causes Kakarot to scream aloud. He's so angry, but also so scared. He begins to panic, flickering in and out of his Super Saiyan form. While he almost struggles to catch his breath, the fear of never being able to see Raditz again is quite scary. He tries to compose himself, tries to not look like a coward in front of these strangers, but he can't collect himself at all. This causes Old Man Gohan to approach Kakarot, but the Saiyan throws a punch towards the man, who effortlessly dodges it. The injured Kakarot's moves are sluggish and a little predictable, so the man gets by with almost no thought. He approaches Kakarot and tells him he doesn't know what he's been through and he doesn't know what brought him here. However, they are both have lost a lot. Slug killed his student, his friends, and his mentor, so he tells Kakarot that they can work together to defeat Slug and right the wrongs which had happened. They just have to trust one another. Kakarot weirdly begins to calm down. He doesn't know what it is about this old man. There's something calming about him. Maybe it's the gentle smile, maybe it's the confident aura, maybe it's a bit of both. But Kakarot takes in a deep breath, explaining how they can't stop Slug without a ship. However, Bulma coughs, pulling the attention towards her. She says how she's the smartest person on this planet, and not only can she build him a ship, she can have it done in under a week. Kakarot looks shocked as Bulma tells him that herself and her father have been making a ship for space travel for years now, so she has a one available, but it would need some modifications. She doesn't know how long the journey will be, and admittedly she wouldn't even know where to begin to make long distance space travel a possibility. However, she is willing to at least try. Kakarot hears this, explains that he can offer up some help. When he was younger, he would often fix up his crew's ships if they got broken. Remember, a weak Kakarot from the beginning of this story had to find a way to be useful. He became really smart to do so, and became a bit of a tech guy amongst the Saiyans, to play a part until he got strong enough to at least be the strongest amongst the Saiyans. And even though he's quite good at mechanics, he hates it. Bulma happily accepts this, saying how they might even be able to save him that wish he wants, giving him a small wink, causing Kakarot to look confused, but Krillin to walk over and hand him a bean. Kakarot tells him that it takes a lot more than this to fill him up, but Krillin explains that the sensory beam won't only fill him up for ages, it will also heal him up. Kakarot thinks this is crazy, but doesn't see the harm in trying, as he eats the bean and feels all of his injuries fade away and his power surge with a Zenkai. He looks towards Bulma, standing up, telling her they should get to work on that ship, as the pair start working on it for the next few days. While working on the ship, Kakarot realises his armour has been heavily damaged, and he'll need a new set. Mr. Brief offers to make him a new set while he's working on the ship, but while he waits he's going to need a different set of clothes, which is given to him from Krillin. A matching set of turtle school clothes. He thinks it's kind of cool that the alien's wearing it, but Kakarot finds it kind of tacky and doesn't really like it. He would rather wear this though than be naked. During this time of construction, Kakarot does spar with Krillin, but the power difference is way too much, so the sparring sessions are very short while Kakarot just heads back to training, alone or working on the ship. Now, with the construction of the ship happening and Bulma and Kakarot bonding, I'll explain the history of this Earth. And to keep things short, most things do play out a lot like canon. However, here in this timeline, Grandpa Gohan actually escorted Bulma on her journey to collect the Dragon Balls, mostly to see if the myth of the Dragon Balls was real, but also kind of genuinely concerned about Bulma's safety. In this timeline, never having Goku, Gohan grew lonely, never really leaving his mountain, and wondering what his life could have been like if he had maybe started a family. So when Bulma gave him a chance to explore the world and almost kind of take her in as an adopted daughter, he did so. Along their journey they come across Yamcha, who Gohan saw a lot of potential in as a student, so he offers to train the boy. Yamcha happily accepts and starts training under him as a student. The first arc goes a lot easier with a stronger Gohan in this timeline, so they breeze through it. The first tournament is different. Krillin still heads off to train with Roshi, however he does so alone, leading to him being slightly weaker, and meaning that final round is actually Yamcha versus Roshi disguised as Chucky-chun. Grandpa Gohan didn't want to partake in this weird thing of pretending to be a different fighter, however he was there cheering along his student in Yamcha. The Red Ribbon Army saga is slightly different. After all, it wouldn't get involved until Bulma is attacked for the Dragon Radar. Once she is attacked for it, the team of Roshi, Gohan, Yamcha and Krillin all join forces to defeat them, destroying the army completely. The 22nd Tenkaichi Budokai goes a lot like normal, however Krillin plays the role of Goku here. After he lost to Yamcha, Chucky-chun and everyone else during the first tournament, he doubled down on his training. Not only did he train under Master Roshi, but also under Gohan, something that Yamcha had an advantage with last time, causing Krillin to actually pick up very good grasp of the Turtle Hermit's fighting style, and also developing his own variation of it. During the tournament, it leads to him versus Tien in the final. However, Yamcha had already presented a much better fight to Tien earlier on in the arc, and had already started to persuade him to swap sides. Gohan and Roshi would still play the same role to try and convince Tien that he's on the wrong path, and Krillin is the final pushing point which would turn the man to a good fighter. And the King Piccolo arc kind of goes slightly different, as with this timeline we see Roshi and Gohan work together to defeat King Piccolo using the Mafuba, while the group of Tien, Yamcha, Krillin and Chaozu hold the man off. We later see them get trained by Kami after seeing them take part in this battle against Demon King Piccolo, and once trained under Kami they grow massively strong and continue to work together to grow and push each other to the next level. They probably never reach too high of a power level, as after the King Piccolo arc there is no real danger, and they just lead a peaceful life until Lord Slug arrives. Oh, and as for timeline, this would probably be around the age 761, around a year before the original Saiyan Saga attack, and when Raditz originally lands on Earth. But back to the story. We join our group a week after working on the ship. Kakarot has spent the time mostly working on it and lightly training, while also trying to think of a way to better his Super Saiyan form. After the battle with Slug, he realises it's not complete and there's possibly more to it. He's going to find out how to push past the Super Saiyan barrier. But for now, with no decent training partners, he has to do what he can alone. But for the most part, he has grown to like the Earth group. He finds Krillin somewhat of a good training partner and can teach him a few decent tricks, his favourite of which being the solar flare, since he knows a lot of people can't actually sense energy out in the universe. As for Old Man Gohan, he finds him as a good mentor. He taught him some basic martial arts, and as for Bulma, well, she's interesting to him. However, thanks to Kakarot's help, and Bulma and him working together, they actually get the ship done a little faster than Bulma had anticipated, probably only taking them 5 days instead of a full week. The reason this is, like I said, is because Kakarot actually understands space tech quite well and took time to learn some of it. He probably could have done this alone, but it would have taken him a little bit longer. And with the ship done, Kakarot calculates that it will only take them 2 weeks to make this journey. They aren't sure how close Slug is to planet Namek, but Kakarot knows that once they get closer and Slug starts attacking, he should be able to sense the energy and instant transmission his way to the planet, even if it means leaving the other two to make the journey by themselves. So, once he gets his new armour from Mr. Briefs, exactly replica of his current armour, he's thankful to get out of the clown suit. They decide they're departing. The trio of Kakarot, Krillin, and Bulma all climb aboard the ship. Old Man Gohan decides to stay on Earth to have at least one available fighter, just in case something happens, and they all decide to head off into space. During this journey, Kakarot is taught to MS train. However, he doesn't partake in it too much. Instead, he finds himself trying to figure out a way to better control his Super Saiyan form. He had theorised that instead of going for power, he should go for a way to regulate his own ki while in the state. So, he often uses it while doing very small mundane jobs around the ship, jumping up to it, doing some minor repairs, making himself some food, or lightly working out. He finds himself in the Super Saiyan form, and this helps him regulate the Super Saiyan form's ki output, and he's actually slowly learning to master it, being able to stay in it longer and longer as the trip goes on. And during this trip, he and Bulma actually get quite close to one another, but you guys can wait to hear that story. As for Krillin, Kakarot gets to speak to him a little bit. When they MS train, Kakarot finds himself speaking to Krillin. He finds the man somewhat interesting, and realises that for a human he's got a decent amount of potential, and would have made a really good sparring partner when he was younger. Of course, now Kakarot's much stronger than Krillin, but when he was a kid, Krillin might have been a threat to him, and he doesn't ever want to admit that. Kakarot learns of Krillin's insecurities and finds it stupid, but never owns that up to the man. He's one of the stronger fighters Kakarot has ever met. Parring the Ginyu Force, he probably would have beat a lot of Frieza's soldiers, so he shouldn't be too worried. When the group are a week into their journey along to Namek, Kakarot is spending his time scanning the universe in hopes that Slug will show himself a bit before they arrive to Namek, but that's when he finds him again. Slug reappears in the universe, very far away from where they are. In fact, he thinks it's Namek, and if he doesn't act fast, Namek will be gone before they ever arrive. Kakarot grits his teeth, and Bulma can see this, asking what's wrong. Kakarot explains that Slug has just arrived on Namek, as herself and Krillin look horrified, realising that they are still a week away. They aren't sure what to do, but Kakarot tells them to hold on to the ship. They're confused, but he insists once again. As they trust him, grabbing the floor, the chair, anything they can put their hands on, Kakarot reaches up, gripping down on the light above him, and putting his fingers to his head, teleporting the entire ship to Namek. They arrive in a small village, about a mile away from Slug. The two Earthlings ask why Kakarot didn't do this sooner, but the Saiyan explains how he needs to find an energy to lock onto to teleport to where he wants to go. But the key fact is looking for an energy. Having only ever met Lord Slug, he wasn't sure how to pick out Namekian's power amongst the universe. But thanks to Slug powering up on the planet, he was able to find something nearby and get them here. Kakarot then breaks out into coming up with a plan. He tells Bulma and Krillin to head off and start collecting Dragon Balls while he fights Slug. Krillin wants to help fight Slug, but Kakarot tells him that he'll only get in the way. Krillin hates this thought, but knows it to be true, so he tells him the moment he's got the balls, he's coming to help. Krillin says there won't be any Slug left by the time he's collected all the Dragon Balls. Krillin has no idea how Kakarot plans to beat Slug, being able to sense the Namekian's power, and his being massive, much stronger than Kakarot even in his Super Saiyan form, but he wishes his friend the best of luck as he and Bulma take off, scanning the planet for Dragon Balls using the Dragon Radar. With the two teams broken up, Kakarot teleports right in front of Slug, who is in a Namekian village holding a small child by the throat, absorbing him. As he goes to grab another child, Kakarot cuts Slug's arm off with a Kienzon. He internally finds that move super cool before he gets serious. Slug is surprised to see the Saiyan, and in that brief moment of looking away, allows the child to escape, hiding off in the destroyed buildings not too far. Kakarot can sense his energy nearby and really needs that child to leave. Giving any more fuel to Slug is a terrible idea, but he doesn't show it. As Slug and Kakarot stare one another down, Slug is surprised to see the Saiyan survived his final attack. Pumped enough energy into that bad boy to almost destroy the entire planet, but that tower was very sturdy it seems. But he's happy to see he survived. He's hoping that being able to test his newfound power out against this Saiyan should allow him to get a good idea of where he stands. Since he arrived on Namek, he had actually managed to absorb almost an entire village. That small child was the last one he needed to get, so he's feeling much stronger and much more confident. Kakarot grits his teeth. He was hoping that Slug had managed to get no Namekians by the time he had arrived, but it looks like he should have just teleported Slug straight away. Now he's got to deal with the consequences of fighting a much stronger Slug. But also concerned that one of those Namekians might have been connected to the Dragon Balls. However, he can't think about that right now. His main goal needs to be surviving and putting Slug in his place. So Kakarot powers up, telling Slug he won't allow him to take another Namekian's life, and this causes Kakarot to vomit in his own mouth, trying to sound all heroic, but he just needs to get Slug overconfident. His plan relies on it. Slug laughs, reminding Kakarot that first of all he's a Saiyan, he shouldn't be worried about others, and then reminds him of what happened last time they fought. How Kakarot could hardly hold a candle to him, even with that Super Saiyan form. And now he's grown even stronger than that version of him, which kicked Kakarot's ass. Kakarot knows all of this, but he has a plan. He just needs to get one punch off. And seeing how Slug is right now, he has an idea of how to get it off. Kakarot announces to Slug how he's evolved his Super Saiyan form. It will be strong enough to defeat him in one singular punch. Slug laughs at this, as he doesn't believe it, asking how he plans to do that. Kakarot says he'll show him if he likes, and Slug, getting overconfident, agrees. He tells Kakarot he'll give him one punch, one free punch. Once he's had his little attempt, he'll go and kill him, finish the job he should have done on Earth. Kakarot smiles as Slug opens his arms. Kakarot powers up to Super Saiyan, which takes him hardly any energy anymore. He's not quite mastered it, but he's getting very close. He just needs a bit more time concentrated on this. But right now, he's got a different plan in mind. As Kakarot takes in a deep breath and screams out a little bit, his muscles don't expand, they shrink. His body slims down as he now looks really skinny. He looks towards Slug, asking if he's ready to fight Grade 2 of Super Saiyan. Slug senses Kakarot's power, and it definitely has increased, but he looks weaker. He's interested to see what will happen, telling Kakarot he's free to have his shot, as Kakarot takes a sprinter's stance and rockets towards Slug. Slug immediately loses sight as Kakarot, looking around to see if he can find him, when he feels his fist connect with his chest. He looks down, seeing Kakarot having collided his open palm into Slug's chest, but the attack hardly hurt. He doesn't understand, as he begins to laugh aloud, wondering what Kakarot's plan was here, before he feels a violent pulling sensation coming from his chest. He looks down to see Kakarot ripping out a Namekian child, before throwing him to the side. Slug's confused at what happened, but Kakarot pulls back another punch and slams his fist into Slug's chest, faster than the man can block, pulling out an older looking Namekian this time. As he goes to do it again, Slug realises he needs to do something fast, clasping his hands together and slamming them into the back of Kakarot's head, knocking the Saiyan into the ground, doing a lot of damage. As the slam echoes throughout the entire planet, Krillin can sense what's going on and is concerned, but he feels that Slug has got weaker, so he's trusting whatever Kakarot's got going on. Slug, having two Namekians pulled out of him, is enraged. Even though they didn't grant him that much power, it's still something he's now missing. He's desperate to recollect them. As he begins to run towards them, he's tripped up by Kakarot's tail. As the man starts to free fall before collecting himself with his flight, Kakarot, moving faster than Slug can keep up with once again, slams his fist into Slug's face, ripping out another Namekian, knocking Slug back a little bit. Each time a Namekian's ripped out, Slug's growing dramatically weaker, but he's still much stronger than Kakarot, and each hit is starting to do a little bit more damage. Slug, truly angry at this point, stands up, asking how Kakarot's doing this. Saiyan just laughs, explaining how he's only really using two techniques, and they're quite simple at that, but he'll break it down nice and simply for Slug, just so he can understand. First off, he's using a new form of his, which he's dubbed the Lightspeed Kakarot mode. This form is a variation of Super Saiyan. It was inspired by something he calls Super Kakarot, a form he might get to see today. However, to keep things short, Super Kakarot is a form which makes him stronger and much more durable, however, much slower. so he decided to reverse engineer the form to make his Lightspeed Kakarot mode. As for how he's pulling Namekians out of Slug, he's using something he calls Force Spirit Fission, a little Argentian technique. Truly he finds it boring, which he doesn't really like using, but it works wonders against people who cheat already to get their power. Slug is annoyed as he fires off a blast towards Kakarot, but the Saiyan in his Lightspeed mode dodges, disappearing from Slug's side, once again, before re-emerging above him. As the sound of screaming can be heard, Slug looks up, as he goes to fire I-beams, but Kakarot puts his fingers to his head, using the instant transmission, appearing below Slug, and slamming both his hands into Slug's chest, pulling out 2 more Namekians, but this allows Slug to hit Kakarot hard with an uppercut to the chin, the force of which should have ripped Kakarot's head off. However, the Saiyan just lands a few feet away from Slug. The Namekian tells Kakarot, "So you're telling me it's your speed versus my strength. I wonder who will win against us." As a vicious cycle of Kakarot ripping out Namekians and Slug landing heavy blows on Kakarot begins. Over with Bulma and Krillin, they are currently heading towards Elder Guru, having 1 Dragon Ball in hand. After collecting the first one, the elder Namekians in the village learnt of their reason for being here and agree to help, sending a message to all other villages to bring the Namekian Dragon Balls to Elder Guru, where they can summon the dragon and prevent Slug from making any more wishes and keep all Namekians on the planet safe. Once arriving at Elder Guru's place, they are met by a bunch of other Namekians and then Nail, who is watching the battle in fear from a distance. He clearly wants to help, but he's not sure what to do and how he can. But once seeing the Earthlings arrive, he guides them into Guru's place, where the older Namekian reads their minds. Sitting with Krillin, he sees the pure intent of the Earthlings, and wants to help. So, he unlocks Krillin's potential, leading to the human feeling a huge surge of power. At first, he wants to go help Kakarot, but he senses the energy of the man. It's lowering dramatically. They have no sensory beams at hand, having left them in the ship thinking he wouldn't need them. So, he has a different idea. He rushes outside, shouting for everyone to gather the Dragon Balls and get ready to make a wish on his command. Everyone's unsure, but as Nail copies the man, giving them orders to do so, they follow along. Krillin thanks Nail as they share a little nod. Inside the building, Bulma gets her mind read. Much like with Krillin, her intentions are pure, but Guru shares something which shocks her. The woman is developing life. It's very, very early stages, but inside of her body she is bearing a child. She is shocked to hear this, and she already theorises who the father is, but now is no time. She goes to thank Guru and go and help her friend outside, but Guru unlocks her potential. Unlike with Krillin, where her power increases massively, her knowledge grows. The woman learns things she never thought she could, learning of ancient history, learning of old rituals, learning of the Saiyans, learning of the Namekians. It is as if her body was allowed to read the Namekian Book of Legends without ever opening it. The woman is shocked and surprised of all the details of the past, but she thanks Guru. Running outside, she now speaks in perfect Namekian, running up Purunga. Back with Kakarot, he's down to his last leg. He's run out of juice, his body hurts all over, dripping with blood. He's even dropped back down to his base state. However, he's diffused Slug from every Namekian which lived in this village, and that means he's gone back to a much weaker power. However, he's still fused with Kami and the Demon King, and Kakarot even brought time for the Namekian village to escape. So, Slug approaches Kakarot, fed up, annoyed and enraged. He's going to kill him, and then he's going to absorb the rest of this pathetic planet. As Kakarot realises he dies here, he decides to go down swinging. As Slug goes to crush the Saiyan's skull, Kakarot places his fingers to his head, screaming out solar flare, blinding Slug. He then throws a double Slunday towards Slug's face, knocking the Namekian on his arse. As Kakarot begins to fall to the ground, time goes slow for a few seconds. He apologises to Raditz for not being able to revive him, which is when his body is refueled. A new stream of energy bursts into life inside of Kakarot, and seeing that Slug has still not collected himself after the double Sunday hit him directly, he powers up to Super Kakarot mode, slamming his fist into Slug's face, sending him bouncing across Namek, soon arriving on top of a body of water. Kakarot follows along his Lightspeed mode, appearing behind Slug. The Namekian goes to respond, however Kakarot uses the instant transmission to appear above him, slamming his fist into his face and reaching deep within inside of Slug, ripping out Kami, causing Slug to lose a dramatic amount of power. Enough to the point where Kakarot can drop back down to his normal Super Saiyan state and slam his foot into the top of Slug's head, axle kicking him straight towards the ground. As he slams into the body of water below, Kakarot asks if this is Kami, the last Namekian inside. The Namekian, confused and discombobulated, nods his head as Kakarot then puts his hands together, charging up a weekend attack. He fires it directly towards Slug, killing the man instantly. Having won the fight, Kakarot lets out a sigh of relief. He's not sure why he got revived and recovered like that, but he thanks the gods that it happened. As he turns towards Kami, who looks confused, he's about to ask some questions, but Kakarot just grabs him by the shoulder and tells him everything will be explained in a minute. Kakarot puts his fingers to his head and teleports back towards the others. As Kakarot lands in front of Krillin and Bulma, he sees Porunga having been summoned. A smile breaks on Kakarot's face as he asks if that's the dragon, but before he can even finish his sentence, Nail stands in front of him with a serious face, staring Kakarot in the eyes. Kakarot gets annoyed by this, asking what Nail wants, and if it's a fight, he's ready to go a few rounds, but he can tell by that man's power, he's nothing. But Nail just stares him down still, before bowing and profusely thanking Kakarot for saving his planet, asking the man to help him become strong enough to do so, as a bunch of other Namekian warriors start bowing and asking the same thing. Kakarot's a bit flustered, but brushes past them, not having any time for this. Getting right next to Krillin and Bulma, he asks if this is truly the dragon, and the two nod. He smiles brightly, asking if he can make a wish. Bulma nods, but explains how they've already used one of their 3 wishes, having used the first one to heal Kakarot to full earlier. The Saiyan now understands why he felt revitalised and thanks them profusely. The two say it was nothing. As Krillin sees Kami, he waves to his mentor, but can sense Kami's stronger and seems different. He asks Kami if he's okay, and the man just explains how it seems during his time of being fused with Slug, he actually acquired some newfound strength. He's not sure if it was just from being inside of Slug the longest, if just forcefully being fused with another Namekian had granted him some extra power, or if when Lord Slug had fused with the Demon King Piccolo, the two had merged back into their true selves while inside of him. Kami, being the more dominant spirit, just happened to win the toss-up. All this means for Kami is he's now going to be a better guardian, and he can upgrade the Dragon Balls. Krillin, hearing this, looks towards Kakarot and tells him that he should have the last 2 wishes. Bulma and Kami are confused, but Krillin explains that if Kami can upgrade the Dragon Balls, he can make it so they can make wishes faster, right? Kami nods his head, and then he tells them Kakarot has been waiting a long time to make a wish, and even though he's been lying about what it is, he deserves to have it. Bulma, hearing this, agrees, looking towards Kakarot and blushing slightly, before telling him that to make a wish she'll have to translate it into Namekian for him to speak clearly when speaking to her. Kakarot thanks them all for this. As he looks towards the dragon, he states his wish. He wishes for his brother Raditz and his teammate Turles to be revived and brought to Namek. Bulma and Krillin both share sad eyes towards Kakarot, having not known his true wish was so nice. But the woman clears her mind and speaks in Namekian, making the wish. Porunga's eyes glow bright, and then a bright light bursts down on the planet next to Kakarot. As the dusk settles, a confused-looking Raditz lands next to Kakarot, and the two share a look before Kakarot hugs his brother on the verge of tears. Raditz is confused and asks what the hell happened, as Kakarot explains how they won, and Raditz is proud to hear his brother had managed to avenge the Saiyan race. While this is happening, Porunga speaks, and Bulma looks shocked to hear. As Porunga then disappears, Kakarot realises Turles hasn't been brought here, and demands to know why. Bulma explains that his friend called Turles is alive, and refused to come to the planet. Kakarot and Raditz's eyes widen, and don't understand what's happening. Out in space, we see Vegeta and Tarbell watching the footage from the scouter Tarbell had acquired from the battlefield of Vegeta's missing fleet. As they watch the video, the pair can't help but notice that the soldiers that their fleet is fighting aren't all wearing that same symbol. In fact, it seems only a few of them were, and most of them are just wearing normal Frieza Force tech with a slight tint of purple to it, and it seems modified only mildly. This confuses them greatly as they continue to watch, but before they can get to the end, a call comes through. It's Nappa. Vegeta wants to know what's going on that planet that had been abandoned and destroyed, is interested, so answers the call. And when they do, they are met with the sight of a bloody and beaten Nappa being held by a crazed-looking Turles. He stares at the camera for a few seconds, taking a bite out of a weird-looking fruit, before speaking. "Sorry I'm late, Prince. I guess I missed the deadline for our meet-up. How about we meet up now, and I'll show you what Frieza did to me." As the footage ends, so does this part. I'm sorry for leaving it off here, but I'm looking forward to writing for the next part, and I also have other things to do. I really enjoy writing for this story, and I also want to apologise that last week was just a movie release. They are going to be super handy to me in the future, where I go through and, finish a what if, and it just gives me a bit of a break from having to fully write a script and whatnot. It shouldn't happen too much, but just every now and again it gives me a bit of a chance to breathe. That all being said, I do hope people enjoyed this part. I'm sorry that the battle between Lord Slug and Kakarot was super short, and I'm sorry if people don't like the light speed form. Just to explain, it's essentially the reverse of what Super Vegeta or Grade 2 and 3 is. The fact where it shrinks your muscles down, making you weaker and less durable, but increases your speed dramatically. The whole idea was Kakarot realised he needed to get more hits in than actually deal damage, thanks to him using Force Spirit Fission, another thing people might not like because it's kind of boring to use. But it's a good technique and there is no reason Kakarot shouldn't have it, and against someone like Slug who's been cheating to get all his power, Kakarot will happily use it, and it shouldn't be a thing that he uses all that much. That all being said, I hope people enjoyed this part, I hope people like what I did with the Earth group, and I hope people are looking forward to seeing what happens in the future. This all being said, I hope you all had a great day or a good night, and hopefully see you next time.